Hi, my name is Jared Mitchell, and I want to talk about my experience getting my prototype, Mark Antony, working on the Gear VR. The footage you're watching now was recorded using the Gear VR's video recording utility, which is convenient but fairly limited in terms of options, hence the square aspect ratio. I think the most important thing to consider when developing a program for virtual reality is, what will this add to the experience? With virtual reality, I think moving your head to look at something like in real life is much more impactful than looking at something by moving a mouse or an analog stick. Because Mark Antony is about simulating a conversation, I thought that adding in a system for eye contact would be a good use of VR. Because social rules are very fuzzy, the rules surrounding eye contact can vary from person to person. Most people agree, though, that staring at someone is alienating and off-putting. I've heard that looking away briefly every 6 to 8 seconds is ideal, so if the player stares at an NPC for 6 seconds in the game, that NPC's confusion value will start to rise. If we left the system there, though, we'd just have players looking away from NPCs the whole time, which isn't terribly interesting and looks kinda strange. During public speaking, though, eye contact can be made when finishing a statement to make it more impactful. So, when the player finishes a sentence, if they're looking at the NPC's happiness will increase as well. This system currently doesn't have a form of feedback in the build, but I can show this in the editor. When the player starts a conversation with the NPC, a raycast is made every frame from the player's camera, checking if it hits the current NPC. After 6 seconds, a message in the console will indicate the NPC's confusion raising. When the player finishes a sentence, another message will indicate the NPC's happiness raising, provided the raycast hits them. On top of implementing this, I needed to make the existing features in Mark Antony work on the Gear VR, especially the core system of sentence forming. As it turns out, there's a touchpad on the side of the headset that can register taps as well as swipes, forming a sort of directional pad. Using this, I was able to have the player navigate sentence fragments by swiping in 4 directions, and selecting fragments by tapping. Entering conversations would be as easy as looking at the target NPC and tapping as well. One small issue is that the touchpad is very sensitive to taps, often registering 2 or 3 taps before I was able to lift my finger. Because of this, I implemented a dead frames counter, which decrements once per frame. This stops additional taps from doing anything until the counter reaches 0, preventing unintended input from creating a frustrating experience. Lastly, the player was able to move around in the Windows build using the WASD keys, but the Gear VR headset is limited on input channels. In addition, typical movement while using VR has the risk of inducing motion sickness in the player. To enable the player moving around, I took inspiration from Yasser Malaika of Valve, who gave a talk at GDC Europe about interaction design in VR. While not in conversation, the player can tap the touchpad while looking at the ground to teleport where they're looking. Instead of just teleporting there, though, the screen fades to black, the player is relocated, and the black overlay disappears. This solution uses Unity's NavMesh tools, which allow me to easily and precisely control which areas the player is able to go to. I'll be continuing development of Mark Antony, both in VR and on PC. Thank you for watching.